The 10th Airport Advisory Board meeting to order. Frank's not here today, so I'm taking his place. He's on vacation. We have Dale here. Ryan is unknown, I guess. I'm here. Ross is not going to be here. Sandra is here. Tim is here. And Phil is here. So we have 4, which makes a quorum. So we don't really have any action items anyway, other than approving the minutes. So first of all, I'd like to have stand and pledge allegiance. Tim, would you like to do something?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone have any conflicts of interest? We don't really have any new business to discuss, but so that's negative. Changes to the agenda. One of the things, we had a meeting with the Airport Development Committee this week, and Gaston chaired that. So basically, we'll just do combined items 6A and B together instead of have a separate one after that, because it's all going to be the same anyway. So only other changes prior to the normal business. Does anyone have a public comment of any kind? No. Okay, then we need a motion to approve the minutes. So approve. I move. Approve.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. That and unanimous in favor. Staff reports. Reports, updates, the airport director and board. So
Absolutely. I'll take the engineering report and the airport update. So from the last report, there hasn't been much of a change. The Taxiway Charlie extension project off of the west ramp there. The flight check was performed on that. Everything's getting wrapped up. We just have to do a couple housekeeping items on it to get that all signed off and finalized. We should see a publication of the new charts on the October 2nd publication period. So that's where they'll delete that Delta North connector. They'll rename Foxtrot Charlie, and they'll show the Charlie 1, Charlie 2 through there. So we'll be able to get rid of a few NOTAMs that are on file right now with that being non-standard. So all in all, the project went very well. They were extremely efficient. It looks really nice down there. So other than that, pretty much, as everyone's probably seen, a pretty decent uptick in fire tanker traffic out of here this year. Just wanted to kind of comment on some numbers that we've seen this year. Over the past 3 years, our average has been anywhere between 50 and 100 tanker operations or landings here. This year, we're approximately 540 as of today. So that kind of shows you the amount of fire they've been flying around this area, which is pretty amazing. They have far surpassed 1 million gallons of retardant dropped already. They passed that approximately a month ago. So I wouldn't doubt if they're knocking on the door of 1.5, almost 2 million gallons of retardant dumped through our base, which is pretty amazing. So nothing but good things from the firefighters, from the pilots, from the operators, the ramp operators. Extremely grateful for the airport, super efficient. The tower's working fantastic. The tower's been sequencing them great in and out, allowing them to make more drops throughout the day on the incidents, which is pretty nice. So all in all, I would say it's a pretty successful season as far as fire traffic in and out of here. With the tower, we're kind of getting towards the end of our seasonal period with our letter of authorization through the FAA and getting into our year-round period. So right now we're in the essentially the final steps of getting our new LOA, which will be our year-round approval to operate the tower. So we had to get to the end of the season before they'll cancel that and start our new one. With that, they are fast tracking our Delta airspace application. So we will have a set Delta airspace running daily from 7 to 5 is what they're thinking. So 7 in the morning to 5 p.m. That can be extended with NOTAMs during fire season. So usually you don't see a Delta hours change on the front and backside. It's usually just an extension on the backside. Just based on the heavier traffic this year and seeing when the heavier periods of training and, you know, more like pattern work and stuff, they want to open the tower a little bit earlier than 9, having that control start at 7. So pretty excited to get that going. There's 2 exciting parts of that is we talked about the runway 24 approach and possibly hiring a company to develop that and look at that. The FAA has actually offered to do that for us and on a fast track. So within 12 to 14 months, we could see a GPS approach to 24. And that has to do with the Delta airspace and having the tower and allowing the opposite direction departures here, the ODP procedures. Because right now, technically, you can't do opposite direction here without the tower, and they would like to have a different procedure that comes in for 24 to be able to allow that. So the FAA stepped in and said, are you guys interested? And we said, absolutely, let's see what you guys come up with. So that's at no cost to the airport. So we will see what they come to the table with on that. Another part of us going to the year-round LOA is we just got word yesterday. I'm still working through the details, but there is a strong possibility that the FAA is going to be purchasing radios for our tower. So these would be the full rack-mounted radios, console, ATIS panel, everything. These are the radios that are like $80,000 per radio times 6 of them. So they allegedly it's all been approved and they're in the procurement process on these radios, which is interesting. That was kind of outside of notifying us until telling us, hey, these are coming to your tower. So
and the fiscal year's moving.
right, exactly. So that's exciting. That means Tech Ops will be responsible for the radios, for the antennas, cabling, all that stuff. So if we had any issues, it would be on them, just like any of our approach equipment, they would be able to handle that. So outside of the tower, kind of related to it, we're going to start, now that all the projects are kind of slowing down, while we still have some decent weather, we're going to be getting into painting season. So we're going to start freshening up some of our hold shorts. One of the big things that we're going to be adding is the double edge line markings to the Alpha corridor and the movement lines to all the taxiways. So essentially right now, we know where the movement, non-movement are. If you're on any of the taxi lanes like Delta 1 through 5, technically you don't contact tower until you're on Delta. Delta is the movement area. The taxi lanes are not, but we're actually going to mark those now with the official movement lines that show where you would contact the tower on each of our taxi lanes. So that'll be pretty clear. And that'll help with ground vehicle traffic too, where you can and can't drive without talking to the tower. So one of the final things I have as far as just general updates, we had an incident yesterday with someone entering the airport unauthorized and driving on movement areas, not knowing where they were. Basically, I was leaving the office here and witnessed a car driving about 60 miles an hour down Delta, drove right out on the runway. One of our other ops staff was on the other side of the runway. We got in contact immediately, and he turned on the vehicle, and the vehicle ran from him, started running towards the Todd Stamps hangar over here. I went to go stop them on the other side, and they ran from me until we finally had them pinned kind of over by Barry's hangar and got up to the vehicle. And it was an elderly lady who was lost. She had no idea where she was at. She was trying to get to Ramsey Road and ended up talking to her. She tailgated someone through Cessna, drove through the concrete blocks next to the museum, and out she went. So with that, I just want to kind of reiterate our own, you know, we're self-policing to a point. Make sure that if you do not know who is behind you coming through the gate, do not let them through the gate. Don't let tailgaters, don't just keep going through the gate and leave it open to close. So somehow she followed somebody through. So just want to make sure we're watching that. Outside of that, staff's just starting to get snow equipment out. I know it's kind of hard to talk about snow when it's hot outside still like it is, but it's getting to be that time of year. We'll start scheduling snow meetings and all that stuff over the next couple months and getting everything ready to go in that regard. So that's all I have for general updates. I have the development updates as well. Does anyone have any questions on the general airport stuff? Okay. So one of the first things we talked about during our development committee update was the Delta 3 corridor. I'll kind of show on the laser here, right in this area where it's currently considered citation. That's technically an extension of Delta 3 taxi lane. We have a developer that's coming in and going to develop 21 small condo hangars there. So these will be kind of an in-between a T hangar and a large hangar. Most of our wait list for hangars here is for just a single airplane square box. You know, they want something bigger than a T, but they don't necessarily want the big 8x8 hangar. So these will actually be a condo platted facility where the individuals can either lease them or buy them. And if they buy them, they can negotiate their own lease with the airport on their little strip of land, which is kind of nice, it being a common wall. So that will address, I would say, 60% of the wants and needs of our waiting list currently. That should break ground in the next 30 days or so. Building's on order. I guess it's supposed to be here within a couple weeks. So they're going to start getting those put together. These are really targeted at being a cost-effective hangar. It's not going to be, you know, epoxy floors, radiant heat, and all the stuff. It'll have the ability to have that. They're going to put the PEX in the ground. They're going to plumb everything to where if a user wanted to add that later, they could, but they really want to target someone being able to get into a hangar very reasonably. So I think that's a market that we can't really supply to right now. That's pretty nice. So
Have they said what price point they're looking at?
not exactly. I've heard under 400 per suite, which would really hit it, because a lot of our hangars and like the Cessna and the Deltas and stuff, those usually go for like the 795 to well over $1 million for those 8x80s. So, and then the only other alternate to that is getting in a T hangar somewhere as a rental, which is a lot smaller unit. These will be approximately 45 by 40 deep, I believe, but with taller doors, so you can put amphib in there if you got like a 206 on floats or something, or carbon cub, it'll fit that no problem. So we'll have like it's going to be 3 units of 7 hangars. So the first phase, the first 7 is what's going in immediately, and as soon as those are released or sold, he'll just keep building down with the other 2 units. Each unit's going to have its own like community restroom and like pilot's lounge area that those users will have access to, like a community space there. So each unit doesn't have to have a restroom in it. So make it a little bit more efficient that way. Another kind of larger item is we're working with Stancraft currently. They're looking at relocating the self-serve fuel island, which is right here off of Delta. They currently lease and control this entire side. This is all Stancraft property. They have in-ground tanks there currently from the old FBOs. Basically, they're looking to eliminate all their in-ground tanks. That's kind of a thing of the past. DEQ does not like those anymore. The tanks that are currently serving self-serve for Hunter low lead are well beyond their service life, keep having breakdowns, all the above. So they just want to get a nice above ground tank with new point of sale that can serve everything a lot easier. And they want to relocate to more of a efficient spot off of the small runway, basically to be able to serve the GA traffic without them having to taxi around to Delta. That's there because it was connected to the old Southfield FBO right here. That's the only reason it's over there. They want to get it closer to the top. And then with that, they're also discussing building a small GA like terminal. Terminal is kind of it's not a commercial terminal. It's a pilot's lounge, essentially just air conditioned heated restrooms with a little place with chairs and recliners, all the information about the city in there. A place where a GA pilot can fly in here, completely self-serve, tie their plane down, get a rental car, an Uber, have a place to wait outside the rain and leave. Right now, that really doesn't exist unless you go park at the FBO. There's not a place to get out of the weather and really just to get fuel and use a restroom. I mean, we have a porta potty at the one off the Delta Fuel Island. So they just want to make a nicer facility for that self-service kind of GA pilot. So we haven't decided any specifics as far as buildings, where exactly it's going to get configured, how the fuel island is. These are just kind of initial talks, and they're ready to get the plans and everything ready for, I think, a spring construction is what they're talking about. So they would like to or have it up and running by our busy season next year, get out of the Delta side. So kind of excited about that. It makes it a lot nicer and easier accessible for most people right off Wyoming. Wyoming would essentially dead end into the vehicle parking lot that would be Coeur d'Alene Aviation, Pilot's Lounge. They've even kicked around possible restaurant ideas there, having something that would service right there, right off the end of Wyoming. So it's a little easier to access than trying to get around Dakota and Atlas and get around to the backside of the airport there. So we'll kind of stay tuned on that one. Forest Service update. We have had a visit from the chief of the Forest Service and the Western Regional Manager of the Forest Service now. They are still very interested in their spot up here on the north side off of D6 in November, right here for the new tanker-based ramp, make a lot more efficient ramp. This season's definitely proven how that facility just does not work anymore to service the aircraft that fight fires for us. They can all, as soon as you have 4 of the large tankers there, you're not able to clear the runway anymore with the next, and they're starting to bottleneck on the other side. If one breaks down in the number 1 position, until that's tugged out of the way, the base is shut down. So it just doesn't work with the current demand. They just want to make a pit ramp that has much easier ingress egress, one that the next pit doesn't block. They want to do 4 refueling stations or refill stations. None of those would block each other. So we're kind of in the very initial planning side of that, but that'll definitely help serve us a lot better and be a lot more efficient with moving retardant in and out of here. Other than that, just wanted to kind of echo the amount of construction that's going on at the airport. We have a lot of private hangars going in currently under construction. So just kind of use caution around different taxi lanes and entrances and exits. A lot of temporary fences up in a lot of areas. If you guys see anything that's of any concern, gates staying open, temporary fence that's down, holes in the fence, stuff like that, definitely let us know and we can round it up. There's, like I said, at all corners of the airport right now, there's private hangars going in. So lots of movement and hazards around there. But other than that, that's all I have for an update.
That was a new fire truck.
The new to us fire truck. So basically, since our last meeting, I think, since the last one was canceled, our ARF truck suffered a catastrophic pump failure. Our old, the yellow one that we've had here for the last 20 years. That one, essentially, to rebuild the pump in it, not replacing any of the other parts on it, was going to be upwards of $250,000 just to fix that truck. The rehab cost on that truck, which involves actually replacing all the piping and wiring and refreshing that truck, they were quoting us anywhere from $500 to $550 to rehab that truck. We can actually procure a truck that is much newer than that, like a 2010 to 2015 Stryker. That's a 3,000 gallon truck for right about $600. So for $50,000 more, we would have a truck that's a lot newer technology, has the newer FLIR, has the new turrets. It's basically not taking a 30-year-old truck and just having a new 30-year-old truck. We have a newer, nicer truck. So we're looking at the availability of those. Those are kind of dependent on them coming off of other airports. They go back to Oshkosh to get completely refurbed, and they sell them back to airports like us. The new trucks are anywhere from 1.2 to 1.4 million, and they're about 3 years out. So while that's definitely an option we want to look at, it's not one that solves our problem. So essentially, for about 3 weeks, we were ARF 0 here, which is completely unacceptable in my mind, especially with all the fire traffic and the bigger aircraft operating in and out of here. We didn't have any protection for those guys had they had an issue here. We'd be reliant on a lot smaller apparatus and not enough water by any means. So the FAA has a big a guide on what type of firefighting capabilities you should have at your airport based on what kind of airplanes you have here. That guide is much different than what the FAA will actually purchase for you. So what the FAA purchases for you is wholly dependent on commercial service. They want to know how many passengers are going to be on the plane, and does that plane meet the index category for a A, B, or C truck? Our existing truck was a category B with our index B, which is a 1,500 gallon water truck. An A is only 300 gallons. If you look at the size of aircraft that operate here regularly, our tankers, Global 5000s, G5s, 737, those are all Index C aircraft. An Index C aircraft with multiple Index C trucks is what, at a minimum, they want to have 2 3,000 gallon trucks, 2 Index C trucks here. That's what we should have here with the type of clientele that we have. The FAA will never buy us with AIP funds in Index C for here unless we have, essentially wide body aircraft landing here with passengers on it. So it's essentially, it's wholly up to the airport to protect itself essentially at this point until a rule change, which I heard could be coming in the next year. They're reevaluating the entire ARF procurement program, pretty much eliminating the Index A's because nothing is that small anymore. And then making the Index B's and C's a lot more accessible to airports. So essentially, to get back into index, we have an obligation by being a Part 139 airport to maintain our index. So with us being at ARF0, we're not doing that. So we had to make a notification to CERT branch saying, hey, our truck's down. And their first question is, where's your other truck? Or do you have another vehicle that can maintain? It says no. So that's not an answer that they want to hear anymore these days. 20 years ago, that worked. It doesn't work now. So essentially it was, as quick as you possibly can, get another apparatus online, because by us being 139, you are not dependent, you cannot be dependent on FAA money to maintain your certification. It's the sponsor's responsibility to maintain ARF index. So they could have made it challenging. If we would have got any carriers coming in here that were not able to land here because we were ARF0, they could have suspended our certificate, our 139. It's a pretty serious thing with us. So go ahead.
Is that why that NOTAM was there, no commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
So the NOTAM reads very weird, and that's a verbiage that only goes in you cannot change what the verbiage is when you do a zero index. So essentially, it reads it's closed to air carrier operations. What that means is 30 seats and above. If the airplane has less than 30 seats, the airport's open essentially. So we were able to procure a lease. there's only one company now in the whole country that leases and rents ARF trucks to airports because they take so long to procure, whether it be a refurb unit or you're waiting 3 years for your new unit from the manufacturers. They have to have something. So this company is one of the only ones. We called them and they said, well, you're number like 28 waiting on an Index B, and there's well over 40 people waiting on Index C's. So you'll have a truck in a year if you want one. And it's like, well, we were honestly calling Spokane, we were calling Boise, we were calling Helena, seeing if they had an extra truck that we could lease, loan, something just to get us back in compliance. So by that afternoon, that company called me back and said that there was a truck coming off lease 2 months early because they had delivered their new trucks early from Boise. And because they were so close, all the other airports were on the East Coast, they would send us that truck. And it was freshly checked out and all that. So we actually ended up procuring a short-term lease to get us back in index. So we actually have an Index C here now on lease. So we have a 3,000 gallon truck up from our 1,500 gallon truck. So we're taking a step in the right direction for the firefighting capability that we have on standby for the type of airplanes that are operating here. Now, essentially, we have to make the decision, which my thought is that we would start the procurement process on one of the refurb units, purchasing one of those, keep the lease, also start the purchase of the new truck, which is 3 years down the line. We don't have to have any money down on that. We can 3 years down the line, you don't pay for it. It's not invoiced until that truck is finalized and delivered at your doorstep finished. So essentially, we would procure the new 3,000 gallon refurb, keep the lease. When the new truck showed up in 2 to 3 years on manufacturing, we would release this lease truck back to them. And then we would have our 2 trucks that we own and actually get on the schedule we're supposed to be on, where every 5 to 7 years we rotate trucks through. The FAA for 139 stuff does not want to see a truck that's really older than about 7 years in service unless it's been completely refurbed. So
So the new truck would be applied through AIP?
No, it would not. Yep. If we go through AIP, we would only end up with likely an Index A. We would, through support, I know Tim has helped with Empire on this and other air carriers. We can make the case for the Index B, and we have about a 80% chance of getting it. You know, we're told by Cert Branch that they recognize that we need a bigger truck here. But, you know, at the end of the day, there has to be a really good case for like essentially passenger service coming here, which we don't have any perspective. So the likelihood of them buying us even what we had is slim to none. They'd be spending $600,000 and giving us an F550 with a 300-gallon water tank, which doesn't do us any good here. So we would be better yet spending that money. What we're thinking is rolling that money into a piece of snow removal equipment. That's another, you know, our summers are pretty taken care of, but we're still operating on an extremely old fleet with all our snow blowers and plows and everything. You know, let the FAA money go towards buying us like the MP5, which is the big plow broom combo to be able to quickly clear the runway, and let them buy that. That gets that taken care of, and then we will buy that refurb truck essentially for the same money and have that on the airport.
When you run into a situation like that, is there any chance the county fire can help out with a loan of a truck or temporary staff it?
Their trucks don't meet the Index requirements because they don't have the right combination of extinguishing agent on them. They don't. The 750 gallons of water would work, but they don't carry enough foam. So for a 1,500-gallon truck, we have 200 gallons of foam. So they would have to, on 750 gallons, they would have to have roughly 100 gallons of foam on the truck and at least 450 pounds of dry chem on the truck as well in an extinguisher, which they don't have. So none of the county trucks or Northern Lakes trucks, even if we added like 4 of their units up, would be able to meet the minimum Index requirements for extinguishing agent. Yeah. So we're good now. We have the lease. It's in service. All of our team has gone through the differences training and done the foam testing and everything. It's definitely an upgraded truck from what we had. So it'll serve us pretty well. And like I said, it has twice the capabilities that even our last truck did.
But that's kind of like a single engine airplane. You're just one failure away from not having any.
Well, exactly. So that's where I want to have the 2 unit, where now we work on the procurement of that refurb unit, keep the lease until the new one comes through. So we have 2 units going forward. If one of them breaks down, we can always maintain Index. Never again will we have just one truck here essentially once we get it. Any other questions?
What happened with the old truck?
So we still have the old truck here. It still runs. The pump is there. It's just missing a lot of the vanes inside. We didn't really even tear into it too much just to take that pump out of it. It's been like bore scoped and inspected, and they can see all the damage in there, but they even don't know where all that shrapnel, literally there was metal coming out of both nozzles out of the roof turret and the bumper turret. So it's a full tear down. It's 100 hours for them to pull the truck apart just to get the pump out to see what's wrong with it. So essentially we would, at this point, it would get sent to auction. We can't pick who it like would get sold to. It would just go to like a Ritchie Brothers type thing and be sold with the tag that says possible pump issues. Essentially, the pump is out. So with known issues, but that's likely what we're going to look at doing with that truck. Unfortunately, it looks nice. It's definitely past its time.
Yeah, the biggest problem with that truck is 2010, but 2001, sorry.
Yeah.
2001. The engine and transmission would have to be totally replaced. I mean, the pump section, really don't about the only thing useful for anybody out of that truck would be what's inside the cab and the 4 tires.
Yeah.
Because it's that outdated.
Anything else?
No, nothing else myself.
Corey, do you have anything? No? Okay. So the next thing will be the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association update. Gary?
Yep, Harry Traviata, Coeur d'Alene Airport Association. We have somebody coming in next year for a fly-in, and that's the 180, 185 club, or association, I should say. And they're gonna be based out of Bird Space museum there. And they're gonna be here for 3 days from August 3rd through the 6th. And we are, as an association, we're gonna try to get our pilots, meet up with their pilots, and then kind of help them out with a pancake breakfast or a brunch, something like that, on the first day probably. And so that would be something that Gaston's getting involved in also, because he has to find the parking spots for all these 180, 185s.
They're likely gonna park in the infield. They kind of requested grass parking. We're looking at having 100 to 150 of these fly in.
Yeah.
It'll be a pretty cool fly in.
I know a lot of those camp too.
Yes, yeah, they said they'll set up camp. We're essentially going right off Delta, off that Delta parking there. Is right across from the Bird Museum is where a lot of them want to tie down out
Set
there.
up some porta potties and stuff like that.
Do you think the grass strip will be operational by then?
That's what we're hoping. So we're looking to, what I'm hoping we can do is start construction on that in the springtime.
Because that would be easy if they landed on that.
Oh, absolutely. They just right off this. Yep. Definitely.
So that was the big thing we talked about there. And then our association is wanting to support fly-ins like that, so we can get additional associations to come over to Coeur d'Alene and you know, if we could help them out with with the grass strip and whatever, because I think all the tail draggers like to land on grass instead on the asphalt. So that was something that was brought up. Also, we had a good meeting last night. We had good Ann from she did the cross-country flight, the air race from Alabama to Phelps Field, and she gave us a breakdown on that. That was pretty interesting. And all the trials and tribulations they went through to get down there and then to get back. And there was a lot of rules and regulations that they had to follow that, I mean, I would be pulling my hair out over that one, but anyway, so that was a good presentation. We're gonna do a chili cook-off probably on the October 19th. And so we're looking at that, trying to get involved in a chili cook-off. And you know, so that's interesting. And then I'm trying to get the Boy Scouts involved in the viewing stand when we get that done. That's going up on the north, off the end of Ramsey Road there. And so we're gonna try to get the Boy Scouts to build us some tables and for an Eagle project, or maybe get them involved, you know, somehow to have a show and tell or something up there. So that's going along pretty good. And then there's a pancake breakfast over at No Limits Aviation this Saturday, so if you guys want to attend that. Well, it's actually a brunch from 11 to 2. And then the Women's Associates, like the EAA or the 99ers. It's another group, and then they're gonna have a thing over at Coeur d'Alene Aviation over there. That's gonna be on the 20th this month. So they're gonna have for young women to get into aviation. So they're gonna have kind of a show and tell over there for that. And then that's kind of wraps that up for the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association. We're trying to get lots of things going and get more groups. So if you guys know of any associations that wanna do a fly-in, that would be, Coeur d'Alene would be a good little airport to do it.
Any questions for Harry? Thanks, Harry.
Okay.
There's no new business items on the agenda. We asked all the board members or anyone that has any inputs for the October meeting to get them into Frank by October 1st. Do you have any public comment today?
Question on the ground-based navigation, ILS, VOR, D&E, all that stuff,
Yes.
maybe the end of the month.
That's what they're hoping. There was a discrepancy in the recorded survey numbers for where like runway center line was when they came out to recertify it. So the flight check, everything was perfect. It was basically a paperwork shuffle. So they're telling us it should be by the end of this month, have the ILS and lights look back on.
Still maintaining it, no plans to get rid of it.
No.
anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyone else? Any more questions or anything?
I'll need to be excused from the 8th meeting. I'm coming back from Prague that day and I can't get here in time. So,
Okay.
but I'll, when I get the board package, I'll send out.
Frank, no. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Great job.
Good job.